Vascular non-seed plants are plants that have a vascular tissue but don't reproduce by seeds. In this video we are going to look at one of the types of plants, which are the ferns, that are part of the division Pterophyta. The ferns have a vascular tissue which is located in the stem. This tissue allows them to deal with gravity. They are reproduced by spores, and these spores travel within the body by diffusion or osmosis. The spores are almost all the times found in their leaves. Ferns need H2O for reproduction.
Pterophyta, fern cycle, non-seed, non-vascular, and diploid. It starts with a vascular tissue. They are taller plants. The fern is a sporophyte. Two ends each of the leaves have a story. It has a sporangia that releases spores. The spores will grow in the protallus, that is end. It has an archegonium and an antheridium. The antheridiums would release the sperm into the archegonium, which is the egg. Fertilization with a zygote, that is 2N, has the roots and the protophyllum and the leaves to form a mature sporophyte. The sporophyte will be the new leaf and the cycle will repeat again.
Non-vascular plants are plants which don't have a vascular tissue. They are reproduced by spores that transport within the body by simple diffusion or osmosis. We're going to look at liverworts, which are a kind of plant that don't grow up very tall, they are close to the ground, and they must have H2O in order to reproduce. Another type of non-vascular plants is the moss, which are reproduced by spores that transport within the body by simple diffusion or osmosis, just the same as the liverworts. We are looking at mosses that are part of the plant division Bryophyta. They grow close to the roots, to the ground, and also to the stems of the plants. You can see now that this type of moss is attached to the stem of a plant.
Bryophyta, the moss cycle, they are non-seed, non-vascular, and haploid. It starts in the land. It gets water and it diffusions. There are a female and a male. There are genotypes. N has a capsule of sporophyte that are 2N. It starts to release the spores. It starts to grow a genotype filaments. Also, it starts to grow the genotype bud. Has a rhizome that grows a male genotype and a female genotype. The male archaetheria makes sperm. Female archegonia makes egg, and the sperm goes into the archegonia. The male and female has an sporophyte. It forms a strike of spores that has the capsule. It starts the process again.
The last type of non-vascular plant we are going to look at are the homeworts, which are part of the division Anthocerophyta. They reproduce by spores, and in order to reproduce they need H2O. They don't grow up very tall and are very close to the ground. Vascular seed plants are plants that have a vascular tissue and reproduce by seeds. A seed is an embryo and a food supply in a protective coat. They transport by diffusion, osmosis, or the vascular tissue of the plant. We are going to look at conifers, which in the most cases grow up very tall, and they only need H2O to germinate.
Corniferous plants, pine cycle, seed plants, vascular and diploid. First plants with seeds. The mature pine is sporophyta. It contains cones. The male is the pollen and the female is the oval with seeds. The male would form a sporangium with microspore and the pollen grain contains the sperm. The female has the oval with the egg. The megaspores has 2 end cells. The pollen goes through the tube into the megasporangium. They fertilize. They create an embryo to end, has a seed with a wing that is dispersal, forms a sporophyte, and it starts to grow the mature pine.
Flowering plants are the last type of plant we are going to look at today. They are also vascular seed plants. They have evolved into most of Earth's niches due to a relative case of reproduction. They have a vascular tissue and they grow up very tall, not as tall as a conifer, but they grow up very tall, not too close to the ground.
Flowering plant, Anthrophyta. Seed plants, vascular plants, diploid. First with flower, the first plant with flower, the ability to reproduce. The male is called here stamen, anther, produce pollen, the sperm. The female is the ovary, the ovule egg. The ovule has megaspores, 2 ends. Meiosis pass 4 times. It survives only 1 egg, 1 cell, and it has 3 rounds of mitosis. 8 haploids would have 2 nuclei and 1 egg. The pollen lands into the ova. The 1 sperm fertilizes the egg, and the 2 sperms would fertilize with the 2 nuclei, making 3 ends. Here is when it passes the double fertilization. It fertilizes the 3 ends. The egg becomes an embryo, 2 ends. The 3 end becomes an endosperm becomes into food.
Now we are going to talk about lichens. They are not a single organism and they are a stable symbiotic association between a fungus and an algae. The algae gets benefited by the fungi because it receives a bigger structure and they share water and nutrients. It also serves as protection and habitat. Now we are going to talk about mycorrhizae. They are mutualistic associations between fungus and roots. They make the absorption of minerals easier. Now we are going to talk about zygomycotes. Zygomycotes or molds do not have septa. They are mostly terrestrial and some form mycorrhizae on plant roots. Zygosporangia are a defining feature and are resistant to harsh environmental conditions. Ascomycotes or cup fungi include unicellular yeast. Some are important plant pathogens. Many live symbiotically with algae to form lichens. Some form mycorrhizae. Defining features include sac-like asci contain sexual spores and ascocarp. In Ascomycota fungus, the structure where karyomagy and then meiosis happens is called the ascus. Basidiomycotes, also known as club fungi, include mushrooms, shelf fungi, puffball, rusts, and important wood lignin decomposers. The karyotic mycelium is the dominant stage of the life cycle. Spore-producing basidium is a defining feature. Basidiomycota fungus differ from zygo and ascomycota because the fusion of positive and negative mating types results in a dikaryotic mycelium. Deuteromycota, the imperfect fungi. There is no known sexual stage in its life cycle, so they reproduce asexually by producing spores. May be reclassified if a sexual stage is discovered. Fast facts. Plants that belong to the Bryophyta division have no vascular tissue and are only found growing close to the ground in humid environments. Pterophyta division plants have a vascular tissue that they use to move nutrients, water, and wastes, but they do not produce seeds. Anthophyta division is made up of the plants that are the most common, which include grasses, most diverse, that also includes all carnivorous plants and make up 90% of all plant species. Coniferophytes and Anthophyta differ from bryophytes and pterophytes because they produce seeds.